Alright, this weekend we're gonna get started on putting in our new windshield. And first we got to get this dash painted. I want to paint it flat black so there's no reflection, so we're gonna have to tape off this and down the fenders and whatnot so we don't get the overspray all over everything. So we're gonna get started on that. Okay, we got all the areas masked off that we care about. This I'm going to respray with gloss, but right here we want the flat black. So we're going to take these Scotch-Brite pads and scuff it up a little bit and then clean it up and spray on some paint. Have a pad.
Use this tack cloth to get the remainder of the dust so that it's all nice and clean and ready for paint.
Looks really glossy now. Should dry flat. Okay, just let that set and dry. Okay, I was wanting to go ahead and put the glass in today, but this Rust-Oleum paint, it takes forever to dry. It's still really tacky. So I found something else to work on. Meanwhile, we'll let that dry overnight. And I got these headlight bezels, and somebody had put little bolts through the bezels, and I'm just guessing they put the blackout things, and I guess back in the day that was the cool thing to do, but it's not cool that they made holes in it. So I'm gonna take those bolts out, and I got some metal filler I'm gonna try to fill in the holes. The paint's all chipped up. I want to try to find some gold paint. I don't know what I'm gonna do about this chrome stuff. I may just paint it black. We'll have to see, because you can't really get paint that looks like chrome. It's always just silver paint. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get these fixed up and sanded down and get them to look just a little bit better. Okay, I want to see if I can get these rusty screws out of here without breaking them more. I don't want to have to grind them off, because that would grind into the plastic. So we'll see. These are gonna want to break loose. Oh, they are stuck. Well, I'm gonna try to round up some vice grips. Now, let me try this one. You never know. No, it's stuck. I may have to grind the heads off this way. I think that's what I'll do. Okay, I think I'm gonna let them cool down before I try to touch them. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can just go ahead and put a socket on these and see if they don't just unscrew out of there. I may have to grind them some more. Yep. Yeah. Kind of what we got going on here. Oh. Well, you don't want to pry too hard, it'll bust the plastic. Let's see if this one's gonna twist out of there. Aha. Okay. Well, should come out of there. Do not want to break it worse. It's stuck pretty good. And they're going to need some more grinding. I think what I'm going to have to do is just grind this whole little tab. There were countersunk screws, so they were bigger than the holes. So I think come through now. pretty rusted. Okay, I got these holes scuffed up, and I actually ran a drill through the holes to try to clean out the junk in there, so that hopefully this metal filler will kind of hold on the inside. So I'm going to get this mixed up and try to plug some of these holes. I need something to poke that with. A little hardener in there. Mix it in without all the hardener running off. That's what makes it kind of hard with that liquid hardener. It just wants to run all over the place. Yeah, if you don't mix it up good, you just end up with gooey stuff all over the place. So I'm gonna make sure we get it mixed in there really good. Okay. Probably have to put some from the other side, but I'll get this in here and kind of let it harden. This one's got a bonus hole. They had to drill 2 holes here for some reason or another. So we can squish it on down through. I want to leave a little bit on the back side just to kind of hold it in place. Two holes there. Okay, more to go. It's starting to harden up pretty quick now. With that set up. Okay, it's the next day and our paint is dry, so I think we can go ahead and start fitting this glass up in here. Got all the stickers and everything off of it and ready to go in, so I got to get my little rubber stoppers on here, screw them down, and I want to set it up in here and mark that bottom curvature so I know where to put the sticky glue. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these screwed on and see if we can fit it up in there. Okay, I got some help putting the glass up there so that I could mark the bottom of the glass so I know where to stick my goo. And with these little rubber blocks, it gets it perfect up here at the top, just enough for the trim, but not you know, huge gaps or anything. So we're gonna go ahead and use these little rubber blocks. Gets it right in the good spot. So I'm gonna go ahead and start spreading the goo out on this. Just gotta start working it across all the way over. Okay, I've got all the goo up in here. It's been sitting on there for a few minutes. I put a little bit of the gooiness to hold these up to the level of where the glass is gonna sit, and right here where the spot welds are, it was kind of a low spot, so I added a little bit right there. Same on the other side. So I'm gonna get some help and see if we can set this down in here. Okay, I got my helper to put the glass in with me, and I ended up chopping off just a little bit of the rubber spacers because I was afraid I wasn't going to have enough room up here for the trim clips. And it's gapped pretty good on that side, but here it's a little bit, maybe a little bit too high to get the clips in there. But my little rubber thing is loose and gravity is going to take it that way. So I think we just let it set for a while. I think we'll be perfect. Just lined up really good on the edges. It's a little bit loose here, but it's gonna settle. And during the day we'll keep these doors closed and it will get nice and gooey hot and it'll settle right down in and seal up. So that's the glass done. I've got to figure out what kind of a antenna I need for, well, I don't know if you can see it, but it's up in there. And I think I might have the old one. I'm gonna have to look for it. But so far it's lining up really nicely. So I'm gonna see if I can go ahead and finish working on the headlight bezels. Okay, let's see if we can get this smoothed out a little bit where these holes were. I'm gonna need some more coffee to get all this sanding done. This is good stuff. Okay, you can see where these have been painted before. There were chips and they just painted over it and didn't sand it down. So I think we're gonna go ahead and sand all the old paint off, get down to the primer level, and that way maybe it'll look a little bit better. Okay, the coffee's working. I got this one pretty much all the second layer of gold off. Over here I got more to go, and it's a lot of hand sanding. So I've got some cracks on this one. It's broke away right here, and there's a crack down here. So I'm gonna try putting some of this epoxy mixed up and use this brush and get a little bit of epoxy where it's broke away right here, and see if we can hold it together. We'll see if it's gonna work. Okay, got it clamped together, and that stuff's already starting to set up. This crack over here, I spread it out and brushed some up in the crack. It's holding itself together, so I think that's gonna work good. We'll see if this is gonna hold. I'm gonna let it set overnight and see what happens. Okay, the epoxy stuff seemed to hold over here, but this little skinny one right here didn't hold, so I sanded it all off with a little belt sander, and I'm using some of the metal reinforcement. I kind of sanded it down to leave a little gap in between, and we'll see if that's going to work. So I have to set this one aside to dry, but meanwhile I'm going to do more sanding on this one. Got some paint. I don't know if it's going to match, but it's kind of close. We'll see. Down here is what it says what it dries to. I don't think the cap is really the actual color, so we'll have to spray some and see what color it is and see if it's gonna, at least look decent. So we'll go ahead and do some more sanding. Back to hand sanding. That's about all I can reach with the DA. So I'm just gonna keep at it until we get it stripped down. Okay, I got this one fairly well sanded down. Some of the little areas up in there you just really can't reach. But wanted to use paint stripper, but I was afraid it'd eat the plastic up. So I think now I'm gonna since it's the same material, I was going to spray a little bit of this paint on the back here just to see how it looks when it dries. So gonna kind of do a little test spot, so to speak, if it's anywhere in the ballpark of being the right color. It doesn't look too bad. I'm sure it's not the right shade, but it looks alright. I think I'm going to let that dry and then kind of judge it from there. Okay, well, I'm waiting for my headlight bezels to dry. This epoxy stuff is still gooey, so it hasn't dried. And I want my paint to dry. I'm going to give it the masking tape test and see if it just peels off. Of course, I'll probably use adhesion promoter The problem is painting this black and this gold, and then I'm probably just gonna paint over this black. You gotta mask it, and if you mask it, you might just peel the paint off you're trying to cover. So, gonna have to figure out something on that. But meanwhile, I got all my headlight buckets out of the storage, and they're pretty nasty and rusty and stuff. So I went over to the Zone and I got this stuff. I looked at the reviews and everybody said it worked good, except for one guy said the rust came back, and I'm like, duh, you know, you got to paint it or something, you know. So I want to dip these little screws and springs in it, and the little screws that hold these down were really rusty, so I went and got a couple packages of the stainless ones, so that'll just look a lot better. They won't be leaching out rust. So I'm gonna try to dip these in that. It says works in 30 minutes. I don't know about that, but we'll see. And we'll paint these up, and we'll put some of this rust treatment on the springs and screws. You can't really paint them, so I'm gonna try to get these headlights mounted, all cleaned up, painted, and mounted in there, because they got to go in before these go in anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and get busy with that. Okay, I got one of my headlight bezels in there, and I'm gonna throw all these down in there and see how it does on that. Get all these adjuster screws in there, and let's see, what time is it? 2:26. We'll give it till 3 o'clock and see if it's really done anything, because it said 30 minutes. I kind of doubt that, but we will see. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. Let's see what 30 minutes it's done. Now, I don't think it's taken rust off in 30 minutes. I don't know. Just doesn't really look rust free. Yeah, I don't know. I'll try to rinse it off and see what happens. Okay, after about 2 hours, it seems to have cleaned up the springs and the screws for the headlight buckets quite nicely. I did not believe the half-hour thing. So, it seems to be working on the headlight bucket, and hadn't quite got there yet, but it seems to be kind of bubbling and kind of eating away at it. Now, I tried sanding one of these, and it's some sort of baked on enamel, and I guess it's that way because the headlight gets hot. So I think I'm gonna leave this in overnight and try to fit as much of this one in as I can. We can get it tucked down in there and see if it don't clean them up. Okay, it's the next day, and I'm gonna see how my headlight buckets are doing over here in this rust remover. Yeah, it's starting to eat away on the paint on that one some. And this one, yeah, it's got it pretty well stripped down. See if I can get it out here in the light. Yeah, I think that looks really loose. I think I'll spray it down and maybe we'll have this one cleaned up. So maybe we can get some paint on these and get these buckets in there. Okay, I've got all my springs and screws up in this rust treatment, and we'll let it sit in there for a little while. And I've got these two lights cleaned up. These, and they've got all kinds of dirt on them and stuff. I wash them off and blow them dry. And out here, I've got these two buckets fairly well cleaned up, and I want to get some paint drying on them, and just so I can at least put two of them in. And I think just spray them down, let them sit out here in the sun, dry for a little while, and then we can start installing stuff. Alright, we'll let that dry and flip them over. Okay, all my rust buckets ain't rusty anymore. Got them all cleaned up and painted. And you might be wondering why I got them all labeled. Even on a vehicle that just has two headlights, it can get confusing as to whether they go this way, upside down, whatever. So I kept them all intact, and I kind of engraved on the buckets themselves when I went to clean them up and paint them, so that we know that this is inners and outers and which side. So it just makes it easier putting them back together. So I got that preservative stuff all over the screws and springs, and I'm going to go ahead and mount the buckets without the headlights in them, and then put the trim pieces on afterwards. So let's see if we can finagle these springs in there and put in the adjuster screws and get all our lights in. Okay, I'm not screwing these all the way in by hand. They're about 2.5 inches long. Okay, I think we're in the ballpark as far as adjustment goes. So, get the other side in, then we can put our lights in. Okay, get this headlight bezel in here, and I got these new stainless steel screws, which look a whole lot better than the rusty ones, and I like it. this one to line up. Get all the rest of them in there and it'll start looking more like a 77 Trans Am. Now that I got the light in there, I can kind of tell it's too inward, but once we get the wiring done, we can aim them against the wall, see if we can't adjust them a little bit more accurately. Okay, we got all 4 headlights in. Starting to look pretty cool. I like it. So, now we got that done. I finally figured out how I'm going to go ahead and paint these headlight bezels. I'm going to spray the honeycomb black, and then to avoid masking it off, I want to try to fit a cardboard over it or something, to piece of metal, and very carefully spray the gold. Then after that's dry, then I can maybe mask off around the gold and then paint this black, because they drilled holes in it and I had to fill them. So I'm going to start the process by getting this black, let it cure for a couple of days. Okay, it's a couple of days later, and I cut out this piece of cardboard so I don't get overspray on the honeycomb part. And I'm going to go ahead and spray a little adhesion promoter on both of these, and then spray on the gold and let that sit out in the sun for a little while. Okay, well, I'm waiting for those to dry. I got a little project on the Camaro, and originally I had a whole bunch of 3/16 and I was in a hurry, and that just ain't enough for the rear disc brakes. So I finally come across where I did another project and I have a whole bunch of 1/4 inch left over, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the ends flared and see if I can get the rear brakes to work a little better, because they just don't grab that good with that little 3/16 line. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this cut off and flared up. Okay, I just love this copper nickel tubing. It's so easy to work with. It cuts easier, it flares easier, it bends easier. So, and then with this flare tool, it makes it, you know, kind of fun to do brakes. If I can keep from dropping everything on the ground. Got my fitting caught in there. Okay. Alright. Finally. Let's see. Let's get it set. Tighten it down. And it's like a 2-step procedure. We have operation 1, 1/4 inch. That starts the flare, and then 2, it finishes the flare. Always makes perfect flares. Alright, get the other side done, and we can go put it up in the Camaro. Okay, got the Camaro up in the air, and I think first thing I need to do is get my tubing run through here, because it goes from the body to the subframe. So I'm going to try to feed it through here and up into there. Okay, I'm going to see if I can get this line started in here. It can be sometimes quite tedious, but it's all in the wiggle. And let's see, should be out there, but it just doesn't quite want to line up. Let's try tweaking it a little bit. Takes a lot of patience to get these flare nuts to start. Well, okay, I'm gonna take a break and try this again. Okay, took a break, came back, left it right where it was sitting, and it threaded right in. Yeah, but it takes patience. Best thing to do is take a break and come back when I don't want to line up. So let's get this thing up and route it to the back. Okay, got my line connected back here, and I've got it kind of roughly run where I got all these little rib nuts, and all the way along up here, all the way along the frame, all the way up to here. So got to get my little hanger clips on there now. Okay, I have found my long lost Cyclops light. That's been missing for a long time. That's awesome. I think I'll put that on the charger. So, got my line all the way up to the front. Put a little bit of heat shield where it goes behind the exhaust there. Got it all bolted down all the way up to the front and up into the proportioner block. So, I'm gonna let it down and pour some fluid in it and let it gravity bleed until I can get someone to help me bleed the brakes. Okay, got some fluid in there and I'm gonna let this set overnight because I don't have any help today. I think maybe tomorrow I can get some help and bleed out those back brakes. Okay, on the Trans Am, I do not have matching door handles because one of them was broke and I had a bunch left over from other stuff I was working on and the Camaro, but none of them match. So I was on eBay and I saw these for 15 bucks. The nice mail lady has dropped this off the other day, and they are supposed to be the blackout ones, and they were $15. I couldn't believe how cheap they were, and I just, you know, kind of amazed. Maybe they made too many of them and they're just trying to get rid of them. I was gonna paint the old ones black because I just kind of like that look, but I don't know. They're, well, kind of the same. They don't look quite as heavy duty, but they're smaller. These ones, they kind of stick out of the pocket. So, you know, I'm gonna try them. You know, for 15 bucks, you can't really go wrong. I was saving these because I wanted the little clips, but looks like it comes with the clips. Of course, a lot of times the aftermarket clips don't work so well, but we'll save these. But I think I'm gonna see if I can get these on there and see how they look. Okay, I went to put some 1/4 nuts on here and the threads look funny, and I discovered that they are metric. 6mm 125, and you can only guess where these might be made. So I found these little metric nuts that got the little grippers on them, kind of built-in washers. I think that's going to work pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and stick them in there and see how these work. Okay, we're going to see if these are going to fit. If I can figure out how to get my hand up in there. Okay, seem to fit okay. I'm gonna get these tightened down and we'll try putting a rod on there, see if it's gonna unlatch. Okay, now to see if they actually work. Wow, okay. Yeah, they actually work. Still need to get my little rubber stoppers in here. I got them around here somewhere. I gotta find those. Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and put the one on the other side in. Okay, I found my little rubber door stops, and it keeps the door from going in too far. Sets nice and even. The handle works nicely, so that'll make it a lot easier to open and close the doors. But my headlight bezels, I'm just gonna let the paint dry on them quite a bit longer so that I can come in here and tape and paint the rest of it. So that's gonna take a while. So I think this is where I'm gonna end this video. I think next time around I'm gonna go ahead and start running the front lighting wiring harness, since I got my headlights in, and do a few other odds and ends. So we appreciate y'all watching, and we'll see y'all next time.